All right, it's Friday, January 31st. This is kind of an end of the day, an end of the week, an end of the month SPY recap here. And today on the daily chart, you can see there was a kind of a two-up failure where we started higher early in the morning and then had a big reversal and closed pretty strongly red. So in terms of the daily chart itself, you kind of expect this low to be tested to, into next week. And then you can see these other three pivots right down here that are very close by. So if we can test that low, you would think you're going to test those three bars here, the low of these three bars, and that's kind of a critical, part of the analysis going forward. First of all, today you could see, and I shot some videos, that there was a good opportunity to buy some, the index early on bar number 2 here for a kind of a pretty strong push up that you were thinking, might take out the weekly highs of last week. And then he had an orderly pause, one push up, and then it kind of failed here a little bit. So that was a sign, that this next push up, at least for the moment, was consolidating. And then there was a big red bar to the downside. So I discussed how I bought some puts right in here when I saw it kind of take out the intraday low and pause, just expecting it to take out. There was a pre-market low level down here, and there was a, pretty bad news about tariffs that were unfolding. So, I bought some SPY 610 puts at 683, and you can see they closed here. Well, they're near 10. They're trading now, so they've moved up nicely, and you're kind of expecting them to follow through a little bit into next week with this daily bar. We'll see if that low's tested. Now, what's interesting is if we go to the bigger picture charts, well, this is the daily chart. I'll show you in a minute. We're at the end of a month, so to me, if we look at the monthly chart now and going into February, what happens next? Well, you can see it's been like almost 3 months of consolidation in here. That's really all that's been unfolding. I mean, the market seems strong, but in reality, it's just been chopping. And you can see here it's made lower lows and higher highs and lower lows. And if you look at the daily chart, that's what I had up here earlier, and spread it out, you can see, for anyone who doesn't believe in broadening formations and following them in a specific type of way, you can see we made lower lows, higher highs, lower lows, then eventually another lower low, higher high up here. Then we came down, we gapped up a little bit to start this week, but we had this pretty big reversal here near the top of the zone. So if this higher high here is in fact the broadening formation in the bigger picture, and we try to come up there and couldn't take that out, had a big red reversal and follow through, if we can kind of get through the midpoint of this whole broadening action, this megaphone here, then we could be heading all the way down to those lows again before possibly, starting up. I mean, it's certainly possible, and that's why if we follow through lower here to start the week, I really want to see what happens at these next three targets in play. And if we kind of just come down there, take them out, and then kind of hold, maybe we're just consolidating in here for a whole nother push up in the overall big uptrend that's in place. So I kind of understand that. I don't necessarily expect a collapse, but I'm going to have to go bar by bar at this point. Also, the weekly chart, it's kind of green. It obviously had a little bit of a sell-off, but that doesn't necessarily, it doesn't, what it means to me is it's a choppy little short-term range. I'm not really, it's not green enough where I expect those high to be tested, and it's not, red enough or enough of a failure where I expect that low to be taken out and really start eating back into this green bar. So even though it's possible we come all the way down here, it's not like an expectation. It's just something to monitor. So that's why step one in the very short term to me is to kind of come down here, see if we kind of hold the midpoint of this red bar, test these lows in here, and then what happens at that point. To me, if we can't break down from there, or maybe we come down and take out this little pivot, but then really can't follow through, and we have some kind of reversal, that could be a sign that we're just consolidating near the, in this top of the range with an eventual expectation to break through the top. But if it breaks down and really continues and bar after bar, we're on the sell side at the moment. We could get a pretty sharp, decline here, and this could be, the type of thing where when we start out the month, we're going to kind of know, let me get back to that chart, we're going to know what the open is on the month, and that line, wherever that is, let's assume it's pretty close to the close, somewhere around this red line. This opening price of the new month is going to kind of be important. I mean, maybe like this month we start and get red most of the month, so we're going to keep that in mind. If we can just come down a little bit and then eventually get back to the open and turn the month green, that's a sign to me that it's just a lot of consolidation up here and an overall uptrend that could head higher. So I'm going to monitor whatever open develops of the month. That price level pretty important, and then I'm going to watch, like I said on the daily chart, really how price. My first, thing is how price reacts to taking out this low in these three pivots here. I really want to see what happens, and that might set the tone. But otherwise, it could be a little tricky in the short run, given the volatility and the choppiness, that seems to unfold with a gap down that went up and then that failed near the highs and came down. So we're kind of chopping at this zone. But eventually, with some of this context in mind and some of these key levels to monitor, we should know where things are headed. But for now, the puts worked out well as a secondary trade today, and it closed pretty weak. So let's see, there'll be news over the weekend. Let's just see if, price action-wise, though, we are expecting a little follow through lower to start the, Monday, and then we'll see what develops from there relative to these three bars.